Chase Briscoe saves enough fuel to hold on to his first win with Joe Gibbs Racing at Pocono. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin NASCAR. I'm your host, Andrew. What a race it was today in Long Pond, Pennsylvania at the Pocono Raceway in the Pocono Mountains. Very great race overall. We have a lot to talk about, and right now I am currently recording this as I am watching Game 7 of the NBA Finals. This episode should be going up on Monday morning, so by then, hopefully, we will have a winner, and the Larry O'Brien trophy will be in good hands for now. And right now, I'm rooting for the Indiana Pacers, even though I'm a Bucks fan and the Pacers knocked out the Bucks. But I'm overall just doing it because I predicted it on Talkin Sports, the other podcast I do. So make sure you go check out Talkin Sports on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and YouTube as well. YouTube is newly added for Talkin Sports, but we're not here to talk about sports. We're here to talk about NASCAR. So why don't we go ahead and start with in chronological order with the beginning. I know a lot of people like to start with the end and the finish, but I like to start at the beginning. It makes sense, you know. So early on in Pocono today on Sunday, when I'm recording this at least, it was a rain delay that kept the start of the race delayed until about 2 o'clock Central Time. And during that time, I was doing yard work. So it was a good thing that kept me busy. The other thing I noticed that Chevrolets were not very good in qualifying. Chevrolets were not very good in qualifying on Saturday, but the Toyotas and the Fords looked like they were very, very good on their qualifying trim. And it looked like the Chevys had better long run speed, especially William Byron, who had to start at the back after crashing during qualifying. He also went to the rear with Ryan Blaney, Josh Berry, and Bubba Wallace. And also today we saw a lot of defensive driving and air blocking, and the dirty air played a big part. It was a big cat and mouse game in this race, a race within the race, another element that the next gen car has amplified in this day and age of NASCAR and the Cup Series. But overall, the racing, besides that, was very, very good. We saw a lot of drivers getting runs off of corners using the different lines, even though the bottom lane did look like it was the preferred line for most of the beginning part of the race after the rain had subsided. And we also saw a lot of good drafting. We saw the air blocking, of course, but we also saw a bunch of four-wide racing, especially going into turn one on the restarts, which were incredibly cool. We saw 3-4 wide getting down into the tunnel turn 2, because Pocono is not like any other track. It has 3 turns, or you can say it has 6 corners. I say it has 3 turns. You have turn 1, then you have the tunnel turn, which is turn 2, which goes over the tunnel to get into the infield, and then you have to go down the short chute, into the third turn. So it was very cool to see that. A lot of great racing into the tunnel turn off of turn 1 down the long pond straightaway. It was really good racing overall at Pocono. Now, stage 1 went completely from end to end, no cautions, all green flag racing, where Denny Hamlin did pick up the stage win. We also saw some pit strategy, some drivers deciding to flip the stage, pit late in stage 1, and so they would be able to stay out early in stage 2, have a little bit more of a tire disadvantage and a little bit less fuel in the tank, but overall they should have been able to do the same thing later in stage 2, kind of flipping stage 3, but as stage 2 would have it, that would not be the case. However, Denny Hamlin would lead all the laps and he would win stage 1, followed by Chris Buescher in the 17 Ford Mustang Dark Horse, his driver Tyler Reddick, Chase Briscoe in the 19 Toyota Camry, Eric Jones in the 43 Toyota Camry, Zane Smith in the number 38, Joey Logano in the 22, Chase Elliott in the number 9, and William Byron in the 24, and Alex Bowman in the 48. So 3 Hendrick cars in the top 10. And now I will say that Zane Smith on back in the top 10 all moved up because of some of the drivers deciding to flip the stage and pit early. And there would be 8 drivers who stayed out at the end of stage 1. Now on lap 42, of the race, we would see our first caution of the day. It was for Riley Herbst, who blew a tire and ended up crashing into the outside wall. Riley Herbst ran pretty solid at Mexico City, had a good running speed most of the day in Mexico City, but today, however, was not the case. He was the first driver out after blowing a tire, and the tire was blown because of a exploding brake rotor. Yes, you heard me right. A brake rotor exploded on that number 35 Monster Energy Toyota Camry XSE. Yes, I said the full name of the Toyota Camry right there. Sue me if you want to for talking too long. Either way, Riley Herbst would bring out the first caution. And however, trouble would also spell his 2311 teammate, Bubba Wallace, who had to go to the rear of the starting grid in the race after having a issue in qualifying. He would also blow a right front tire due to a brake rotor exploding into the tunnel turn, and that would end his race as well. And Bubba Wallace over the radio was not happy. You could hear him saying, "Oh God," and I'm not going to pull the clip up, but you could hear the emotion in his voice, and the weekend was not going the way Bubba Wallace wanted to. This was a track that he has been very good at in the past, and especially in the next gen car era. And he really needed a good race because now he is in the playoff points. He is now. And during this caution, we saw one of the more kind of funny and weird moments of this race. Brad Keselowski, who was the leader at this point, he decided to pit, and pit road was closed. And if you aren't aware, the penalty for pitting while pit road is closed is you have to go to the rear, and that's what Brad Keselowski did. And it was a really bad moment for the team. It set them back, but Brad brushed it off and was able to rally his team and tell them to keep going, and it would end up being a solid day for Brad, as we'll find out later in this episode. 15th in the playoff standings, and he's only 29 points above the cut line with 5 more races to go in the regular season. So not a very comfortable gap, and with a couple road courses coming up, Bubba Wallace is not shaping up to have a very good end to the regular season. You still have Chicago, the street race, Sonoma out in California, and then you have Watkins Glen up in New York. And Bubba Wallace has not been very good historically on road courses. Now, however, he does have Atlanta coming up, so that is a good opportunity for Bubba to possibly get a good finish and rebound off the 36th place finish he had today in Pocono. Then for a little bit in stage 2, we are holding our breath as Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the 47 was racing around his rival Carson Hocevar, and that was around lap 64. So we were all holding our breaths. Even the broadcasters are like, "Oh, we better watch out for Carson Hocevar and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Do we see some retaliation?" And we didn't. We saw Carson Hocevar really kind of lag behind Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and kind of not run him so hard like he would on any other driver. So it was good to see that Hocevar was acknowledging that, and the spotter and his crew chief were telling him to, take it easy and run Ricky carefully and not do anything stupid. And to his credit, he did. And I think I credit Carson for doing that. But even still, Ricky can get more payback on Carson. If Carson oversteps the next time and he kind of roughs him up in Atlanta, then Ricky has by all means he has the full permission to give him a little bump and maybe let him sit out to dry in the outside lane at Atlanta. And I doubt that this is the end of the Hocevar Stenhouse debacle. And then on lap 72, we saw Michael McDowell have a brake rotor explode off of turn 3, and that cut a right front tire. And then about 6 laps later, we got a caution for debris on the front stretch from that tire and brake rotor possibly exploding. And that would be the 3rd caution of the day. And on this caution, Chase Briscoe actually went into the pit lane for his scheduled green flag stop, and he needed a caution for this strategy to work, and they got that caution. He would end up lining up in 2nd on the inside of Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the inside lane, excuse me, and we would see Chase Briscoe get clear for the lead on lap 81, and then on lap 83, we saw the possibly the biggest crash of the day. It was a 4-car incident off of turn 2 off the tunnel turn. Kyle Busch washes up into Zane Smith, and he spins, collecting Christopher Bell in the 20, Shane Van Gisbergen in last week's winner in the 88. Ty Dillon as well was also caught up in it. We also saw Tyler Reddick had to slow up, and he would go to the garage after this. He would use this caution to take this opportunity to inspect the brake rotors because, again, early in the race, his two teammates, Riley Herbst in the 35 and Bubba Wallace in the 23, all had brake rotor failures. So they went back into the garage, replaced the brake rotors, and made some repairs to the brakes, and that allowed Reddick to finish the race and not have a bigger issue. Now, he was one lap down, but even still, I think the circumstances around that, Tyler Reddick made the right move, and the whole 45 team made the right move there, pitting and going back into the garage to inspect and fix those brake rotors. Now, after all that, stage 2 would play out as normal, and Chase Briscoe would end up getting the second stage win, his first stage win since Watkins Glen in 2022. So it's been over 3 seasons since Chase Briscoe's last stage win, so it must have felt good for him there. Josh Berry would end up P2 in the 21 for the Wood Brothers. Chase Elliott would finish third in the second stage. William Byron would finish fourth. Chris Buescher in fifth. Denny Hamlin in sixth. Cindric in seventh. Blaney in eighth. Larson in ninth. And Carson Hocevar in 10th place to end stage 2. Now, the third stage would also be very orderly and not have much drama. Chase Briscoe would also stay out to start stage 3. He would be clear for the lead on lap 101. We'd also see on lap 119, Austin Cindric, Josh Berry, and Alex Bowman kick off the final pit cycle, because then from this point at lap 119, they could make it all the way to lap 160 to end the race. Now, and then we would also see William Byron take 2 tires because he short pitted at the end of stage 2, and this allowed him to not have as much time on the pit road for fuel, and it also allowed them to take 2 tires there. Chase Briscoe would also make his final pit stop of the race here, and he would have a lightning fast pit stop, and he'd be able to beat out both Chris Buescher and Denny Hamlin, and we would come to find out the reason why is they did not take all enough fuel to make it to the end of the race comfortably, I would say, because if you watch the race, you would know how the race ended. But Chase Briscoe would make his final pit stop on 120, and then we would see on lap 124, Shane Van Gisbergen would spin off of turn 1, and he just lost it, got loose. He's a rookie. Pocono is a very tough track, and it's easy to see why. And that would be a really weird caution. We would see Ryan Blaney, Ty Gibbs, Christopher Bell, Daniel Suarez, and John Nemechek all be forced to pit, and that would mean Chase Briscoe would be able to take the lead here. And we would hear on the radio from the Amazon Prime broadcast that James Small, the crew chief for Chase Briscoe, would be yelling at him to save fuel, because they were not sure on how far they could get with this fuel, and they were just telling Chase to save fuel here. And then on this lap, we would see that Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Justin Haley, and Todd Gilliland and Cody Ware would pit because they would be the only other drivers that haven't made their final pit stop yet. And now we would see on the final restart on lap 131, Chase Briscoe would be able to clear Denny Hamlin on the outside, and Ryan Blaney would get clear for third, and then Chase Elliott would run fourth. And that would be pretty much how the rest of the race ran out. Now, the real drama was up front with Chase Briscoe and Denny Hamlin, because they weren't really pulling away from each other. Like, one wasn't getting closer or one wasn't getting farther, because Chase Briscoe obviously had to save fuel, and he was just trying to back out of the throttle heading into the turns. He would kind of run partial throttle in the turns. He would go full throttle, enter the turn, let off a little bit to half throttle, and then completely dump the throttle. But eventually, James Small came on the radio and said, you need to just completely dump the throttle heading into the turns. And that was what Chase Briscoe was doing. And then he would start shifting earlier in the turns, like coming off the turns. He would shift up into 5th gear after going down from 4th to 4th gear. And that would allow to keep the RPMs low, and that would also save more fuel. And that's how it was for the last 30 laps of this race. And Denny Hamlin really wasn't able to mount a charge, which was very disappointing to see. And it looked like Hamlin could definitely get there, and Hamlin is no slouch at Pocono. He's won there 7 times. He is basically the king of Pocono Raceway, and I was very surprised to see that Denny Hamlin was not able to mount a charge. Now, it was more of the air blocking situation that came into effect that Chase Briscoe was using. He was running the same line in front of Denny Hamlin to upset the downforce and the balance of that race car, which made it harder to turn for Denny and take him a little bit longer to get back to the gas so he doesn't spin out. And just like his teammate Denny Hamlin, Chase Briscoe would save enough fuel to come across the finish line at Pocono first place, and he would have a pretty sick burnout just like Denny Hamlin did at Michigan. So Chase Briscoe did end up getting his first win with Joe Gibbs Racing, his first win of the season, his first win since the Southern 500 at Darlington last season with Stuart Haas Racing, and this secures Chase Briscoe into the playoffs. And for everyone on the playoff cut line, this is not a new winner that would upset the entire playoff bubble. It means that Chase Briscoe, who already had a provisional playoff spot on points, will now be able to have a secure playoff spot with the win, and all the other drivers who had spots in the playoffs on points really don't get shuffled out. It's just more or less they get pushed back because Chase Briscoe obviously has that win now. But you know the drill here. We're going to look at the top 15 finishers here, some of the top finishers of the race. Daniel Suarez ended up in 15th place, was running up inside the top 10 for a good portion of stage one. Kind of really didn't have the pace that we all expected or really thought he did, and he would end up P15. Ty Gibbs ends up in P14 as well. Both him and Suarez kind of had quiet days overall. Eric Jones had a very solid race, I would say, for Legacy Motor Club. His teammate John Hunter Nemechek up in 6th place. Very good race for Legacy Motor Club. They continue to slowly improve, and we've seen more flashes recently. So, I think they have a possible chance at winning at one of the super speedways? 100% yes, and maybe at a road course. We saw Nemechek run very well at road courses recently. Josh Berry ends up in 12th. He had another good race. He was really the only Penske car besides Ryan Blaney and Austin Cindric to have a good race. Alex Bowman in P11 just grinded out a good finish. Again, rough qualifying effort like all of the Hendrick cars, but he ended up getting a solid finish in 11th. Austin Cindric in 10th, just following the leader with Ryan Blaney. Brad Keselowski in P9 overcame several penalties and several miscues and badly timed cautions. He might have honestly had the best car. I don't know if that's really the best. I think that besides Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski might have had the best car on track today. And all of RFK did very good. Ryan Preece ended up in 8th place in the number 60, kind of grinded out a good finish. Chris Buescher ran up front most of the day. He finished in 4th. Kyle Larson in 7th. Again, grinded out a good finish. Kind of had a rough qualifying, like a lot of the Hendrick cars. John Hunter Nemechek in 6th. Chase Elliott in 5th. Was running in 4th for a little good portion of the race and got some stage points, which he desperately needs. And Chase Elliott, he's starting to heat up, and we're heading to Atlanta next week, which is Elliott country. So I'm having some optimism about Chase Elliott heading into Atlanta, but we'll see how Chase Elliott does next week. Chris Buescher in 4th. Ryan Blaney in 3rd had a really solid race. Denny Hamlin, who got the Xfinity fastest lap, finishes in P2. He sat on the pole. And then Chase Briscoe, obviously, in 1st. So there are your top 15 finishers. A couple other guys I want to mention. Logano in the 22 car finished 16th. Got some stage points, and all of his Penske teammates did end up finishing inside the top 15, including Josh Berry, who's a Penske car, I would say. Really kind of wasn't on the right strategy for the win, but still, I would say this is one of the better performances I've seen from Joey Logano. Just didn't really have the great finish. Christopher Bell also finished in 17th, was involved in that accident with Kyle Busch, Shane Van Gisbergen, got a little bit of splitter damage, but was able to rally to 17th and have a good finish. So we haven't seen that really good speed from Christopher Bell like we did in the early portions of the season, when he won those back-to-back-to-back races. So we're still looking for it, and I think at Chicago, he's definitely going to be a driver to watch. And he won Atlanta earlier this year, so maybe Christopher Bell will find that magic. Carson Osfar also finishes in 18th. He was also in contention at Atlanta last time at Atlanta, or Echo Park Speedway. That's going to be so weird to say. Justin Haley, his teammate, finishes in 19th place in the 7. Really solid finish for him. Spire continues to elevate their performance, and Carson Hocevar has been leading the way, but it was a good finish for Justin Haley. Their teammate Michael McDowell ended up in with a DNF after that tire failure. He finishes 35th. He wasn't really running great before that, so besides McDowell, Spire overall had a really good day. Cole Custer, I want to mention him in the 41 for Haas Factory Team. He did finish 22nd, but early in the race, he started in 5th place. That is a great qualifying effort for that team, and it's a single car team. They work out of RFK shop, and their crew chief, Aaron Kramer, really did say that it was a 4th RFK car, and now we're kind of starting to see it, and I'm very encouraged by the amount of good speed I've seen out of this 41 car. So shout out to Cole Custer. Zane Smith, I think Zane Smith definitely had a very solid car today. William Byron finishes in 27th. He, again, was kind of on the wrong strategy. He kind of got caught up in a little moment there where Ross Chastain got loose under Zane Smith, and this had to check Zane Smith up, and this checked up William Byron, and that ended up just kind of getting a stack up situation. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was running up front a little bit today, so he finishes in 30th. And then Tyler Reddick, man, again, he did have to go into the garage to fix the brake rotors, but he finishes 32nd. He was running up front mostly in stage 1 and 2. It's just then after they pitted, they lost all their track position and really could not get it back. But there you go. Those are all the top finishers for today, and I think that's really all I got for on the racetrack. Once again, want a quick shout out on the Xfinity side of things. Congratulations to Connor Zilisch in the 88 car and Dale Earnhardt Jr. with his first race on the pit box for Dale Jr. So congratulations to them. And Lane Riggs in the truck series, both getting the wins on Saturday and Friday night. So good racing overall, I thought, from Pocono. Now it's time to rate this race, the Great American Getaway 400 presented by visitpennsylvania.com. So, what am I going to rate this race? I thought the racing was good. One of the more deserving winners got the win today, and I thought there was some carnage with the crashes and the brake rotors. They played a interesting role in this race, and it definitely saw a driver like Tyler Reddick have to go to the rear, and it kind of flipped everything. There was the pit strategy, which I thought was very interesting. I'm gonna give this race. Ooh, what am I gonna give this race? This was tough. This was tough. I know what. I'm gonna give this race a 90%. I may be overrating it, and I may be a little off, and you're gonna have to let me know in the comments. But I'm gonna rate this race a 90. It was a good race, I thought, and slowly we've seen the next gen races over the course of this season be better, especially on the high banked ovals. I mean, Michigan was very good as Benedict Matherin for the Pacers makes a very sick layup. I'm still watching the Pacers game, everybody. It's the fourth quarter, and the Pacers, they're not doing very good. Yeah, they're down by 19 with 6 minutes to go. But there you go. That's my analysis and breakdown of the Great American Getaway 400 presented by visitpennsylvania.com from Pocono Raceway, the Tricky Triangle. So you guys are going to have to let me know down in the comments below what you thought of tonight's race or today's race. I'm recording this when it's night here in Wisconsin. I got to get over that. But let me know what you think of today's race down in the comments. Let me know what you would rate today's race. Also, go check out Talkin Sports. We just posted a finals preview and kind of prediction for Game 7, even though Game 7 is going on right now. Go check it out. Go check out Talkin Sports in general. I'm going to have an instant reaction video or episode about the NBA Finals in Game 7 coming up either tomorrow or later tonight, depending on how I feel, if I want to actually record it or if I just want to go to bed. I don't know. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for just all the support we've had on this series. Again, go check out Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you want to listen. We're trying to get up on many platforms as possible. And we got up on a couple, and we got on the popular ones, I would say. But yeah, go check out our show on any other places. Share it with your friends. Share it with your friends, please. I hope you like it, and I hope you guys will come to NASCAR and learn to love it like I did. But there you go. That's my analysis, and I'll see you on Monday for a new edition of Power Rankings and some breaking news of NASCAR. I'll see you then. Bye.